I'm here with the wonderful folks from Amplitude Studio, going to be talking about their upcoming 4X strategy game, Humankind. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me all the way from sunny France, is it?
Yes, Paris.
Definitely sunny today.
Sunny today.
Not that we
Well,
can see most of the sun, but you know.
as a huge strategy nerd, I'm super excited about your next entry into the genre, really. But I wanted to kind of give a heads up to anyone that's just getting familiar with the series again, with the new franchise even. One of your big selling points is that you have so many cultures that you can draw from, gain influence to, or play as. Can you tell us how many cultures you're tapping into and the scale of these cultures?
So we have 60 different cultures in the game, through like 6 different eras, so 10 cultures per era. And yeah, basically each time, you move on to an era, you can actually decide if you want to evolve to one of this culture. And actually you can start combining all these cultures together to be able to create your own civilization.
And so if you do the math, that's up to 1 million possible civilizations that you can build out of that list of 60 cultures.
And you could have like different ways of deciding how to evolve. Is it because you want to recreate history? Is it because you want to adapt yourself to a given situation? Maybe I'd love to start with like exploration of science and being of the game. So I can pick the Babylonians, for example, if I want for science. And as you move on, maybe I will have other challenges and try to adapt differently, or maybe try to have a little combo, like to try to maximize maybe my science if I want. So it's up to you to decide who you want to become.
More than anything, from what I've seen so far, apart from the huge draw of multiculturalism, you guys are really talking about the fame of the culture that you're creating. Can you tell us a little more about what fame means in Humankind?
Yeah, well, fame, it's for us a way to look at your journey, basically. It's all about whenever you write history, you will have, these achievements, these feats that people will remember about you, in the future. And that's fame, basically. So whenever you play the game, if you do something memorable, that's, where you develop more fame. And with fame, actually, you'll be able to move through history. You'll be able to become, or add, more cultures to your initial culture. But it's also, when you're reached a certain point, towards the end of the game, to be able to look at all the past, and see what a wonderful history you're written. It's not about who you are at the end of the game. It's really about who you have been throughout the game.
Yes, so fame is basically how we measure the mark you have left on history. And it's about being remembered, not just having the biggest army or the biggest empire at the end of the game. So if, for instance, in eras 1 and 2, you're a master of exploration and science, and you basically dominate an entire continent with your culture, and then come era 4, the early modern age, and suddenly an army crosses the ocean and crushes you. Well, you might still win the game because what you did before that was more memorable and left a bigger mark on the history of humankind. So yeah, that's really a way for us to it's a new take on the 4X genre and victory conditions, and one that we are confident will resonate with how we live and how we look at history today. Imagine, when that invasion comes, you are playing an agrarian culture. Okay, so with your affinity, you get this ability to steal population from nearby territories, or to have a new population pop up faster in your empire. Well, if you get invaded and you're nearing the end of an era, you might decide to, earn a bit more fame to get access to the next era quicker. Choose a military culture, which gives you the ability to convert your population into militia as much as you want and counter the attack. So, the example was just to, to let you know how, leaving your mark is more important than just winning bigger battles. But it doesn't mean you're not able to, to reverse the tide at any moment. And basically, fame, the way it's earned, there's two key ways to earn fame. One we call world deeds, and the second is era stars. So world deeds is basically a big amount of achievements that are accessible to all players on the map. So for instance, be the first to chart your entire continent, or be the first to cross a sea, first to found a religion and whatnot. Many examples. And when you get that and you're the first to get that, then you're being famous. For instance, if you're the first one to research writing and you invented writing, that's a pretty big mark left on history. And era stars are basically a mechanic whereby we have 7 different affinities in the game. And each of these affinities gets a set of goals, of stars that they can unlock, that they can reach. And basically, if you unlock 7 of any type of stars that you're competing for, then you get to access the next era. So world deeds, era stars are what will build your fame.
But you can build your fame the way you want, right? So
yes, it's completely up to you.
Through science, through war, through exploration.
And again, it's all about thinking ahead and thinking of the combos that you're going to be making between the cultures, and what era, the dynamic of one era might not be the one of the next, and you might, there's many ways that you can, again, reverse the tide or adapt your play style to the challenges you're facing at any given time.
So is there a penalty to for not having any fame, a penalty for low fame, or a buff for if you are the most famous culture in a game or something?
So we actually, we have a mechanic that, I won't go into the details today, but we have catch-up mechanics. We do have catch-up mechanics, and some era stars become easier to achieve for players that are really lagging behind. Of course, this needs to be balanced, and you need to, have incentives to be always ahead of the game. But we do have those mechanics.
I mean, we're not really into punishment. I don't think you're playing for X for like 10 or 20 hours to be punished all the time. So it's not really what we want to do. But it's true with that system. You definitely are encouraged to try to achieve things, but you have so many different ways of doing it that it's nearly impossible not to win any fame. It's just, of course, maybe some people will win fame faster than you, and that's it. Maybe all that means is, in the end, maybe you will not be the one to be remembered, by that game. Maybe you will have to play again to try to make more fame.
You've talked a lot about the historical authenticity of the game during development, that you're kind of creating authentic building blocks that players can then put together in their own way. How much of the deeds and the stars stuff, how much of that are like real historical events versus how much is it like player driven or player agency created?
It's definitely more player driven, but I think the way we try to look at it is to think, if that was history, would you have marked history with that? And if the answer would have been yes, then you will have fame for it. And there's so many ways to mark history, of course, but obviously you have some bigger ways to mark history than others. Again,
every block in the game is historically authentic, but a lot of the experience is driven by player agency. So, you might create a civilization that has Middle Eastern roots, but then grows into Western Europe, and then Asia, and then, and to some, it might seem like, okay, this is not historically accurate, but this is where your own fantasy comes into play. You are able to build your own civilization, drawing from the cultures that you deem the most interesting, the most powerful, the most charismatic, the ones that yield the most benefits. it's really up to you. But if you delve into the specifics, and you know, we have we're working with historians, documenting every aspect of the game, and you'll get a lot of information on every culture in the game, its history. We're focusing on the bits of history that also reflect the gameplay inclination for those cultures, so it all makes sense within the system of the game. So yes, every block historically authentic, but a lot of room for customization.
Yeah, we try to make sure it's always justified, actually, sir.
Do you also have kind of historical events that appear in the game, or is it more so discoveries and inventions?
So we definitely have a lot of events inspired by history.
Mm-hmm.
What we wanted to avoid was to have the exact event of history, you know. But obviously, all the events we added in the game, and we have a lot in them. We always try to, of course, have a strong inspiration from real history, and often you will recognize what it is. But then, you know, in front of this moment and situations, you know, you will be able to take your own decision on how to face it.
Basically, events will be triggered by your playstyle. Again, so they're all inspired by historical events, like every one of them, but they're not a specific event. But for instance, if and they're all relevant to their era, the era that they pop in. So for instance, if you're building all these farmlands next to a river, well, after 10 turns, for instance, maybe a flood will occur. And then you will need to deal with the flood, and you know, you'll be presented with the lore for the choice, and also then the various stances that you can take. You can make a choice. This will in turn impact the ideology system, which we'll talk about at another time. And those events actually also echo through time, because some of them will have consequences like across the entire history, the entire 6 eras. So yeah, we're pretty happy with the event system.
So obviously the Fame system's quite a unique draw that you guys have to the 4X genre. Where did the idea for Fame and this whole system come from?
The idea behind it was, I think, was to find a way that was not very too artificial to talk about history, you know, in a game. Wanted to reward the past, not just the present. So and it's in, you know, well, we've done quite a few 4Xs so far, and we played you know, a lot of other, you know, 4X games. And it's true that, you know, you always have that feeling that you are rewarded for the last turn of the game. And for me, this is not history. You know, it's history. It's all about reading about these amazing moments from the past of things that happened, things, you know, you can be proud of, or make you dream, or make you, you know, travel, and you know, you just wanted to be able to play any of these past cultures and say, if I do something now, you know, people or you later will remember that moment, you know, and this is for what I do now, you know, that's what matters. And even if, you know, my country or culture disappears or decline, you know, we'll still remember that amazing history. And I think we have a lot of that in the history of, you know, these amazing cultures and countries that sometimes have disappeared. They left an amazing history, and that we will still remember, you know, through you know, what they left over for us to be able to contemplate or read about, and which is amazing. So yeah, it's and I think it's a great way to attach a player to history.
Does the old cliche of the history being written by the victor play a part in this? Is there a way to kind of remove someone else's fame and scour them from history?
No. Well, in a way that sentence will be true, because I think we'll remember definitely who has the most fame at the end of the game, and maybe you'll decide to remember just your own fame and your own history if you won. Probably if you had not the most fame, maybe you will decide just to play again and forget about that game. Maybe not forget because you'll remember the biggest moments of it. But no, it's yeah, it will be the case. But we don't have any mechanics, gamey kind of stuff to try to take away some of the fame, to burn the books that are talking about your enemy, or it's not really the way it is. Actually, it is extremely hard to erase the fame of someone in history already. It's like someone did something infamous or famous. Basically, you will remember it the same way, and people will talk about it. We're still talking about Attila, and it's only like 1500 years later. So. No, yeah, it's all about remembering whoever you are and whatever you did, and yes, remember more the victors than the others.
Well, that all sounds super exciting. Sounds like an amazing new take on the 4X genre. Can you tell us when we can get our hands on Humankind now?
Next year. We were actually supposed to come out a bit earlier. But yeah, I think we're not the only ones. We did suffer a bit from the situation, and we decided to take some time, basically, to. We definitely expect to be affected by the COVID situation for a bit longer. So we're all working from home, and it's not easy for everyone. So we taking the time, and we are very lucky to have Siga with us, who allows us to take the time to polish the game, for longer and make sure basically we can come out whenever it's ready, whenever it's great.
Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time out, especially in this strange situation, to come and talk about Humankind. I will definitely be keeping track of everything that you're coming up with in the future. And then also anyone else out there watching, if you want to learn more about Humankind or keep up to date, then GameSpot is the exact place you should be hanging out. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Bye bye.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye bye.